CW's The Flash is not only a spin-off of their previous comic book-based hit Arrow, but it is also the second live-action TV series about the DC Comics superhero The Flash. Currently in its first season, roughly half of it has passed, and at this point I feel like a discussion about it is coming up in a flash. Simply put, I really enjoy The Flash, this TV series, and one good reason for that is that this really feels like a superhero show, which is kind of a rarity these days. I mean, shows like Smallville, Gotham, and Arrow have sort of felt like they are inspired by superhero characters, but haven't quite been superhero-y as much as The Flash. That's not to say that I dislike those shows because of that, because it's always interesting to find new angles on certain things. I'm just saying that it's so great to have a show where somebody has a superpower and an alias and a costume, and the fact that this actually is based on an old iconic superhero comic book makes it so much better. We have Barry Allen hit by lightning, puts on red tights, or a costume of some sort anyways, to run out and, save people, fight crime, that sort of thing. Yes, every time I see The Flash save people from a car crash, burning building or anything, I just feel like I'm in heaven. This is definitely the type of shows I love watching. Another thing I like about The Flash is that it has a much lighter tone than Arrow. Of course, I really enjoy Arrow, but it's really cool that these two shows are so different from one another, even though they take place in the same universe. I mean, with Arrow, it's more of a glass is half empty type of thing. Many tragic things happen and have happened in the past, and Oliver Queen's motivations are more about punishing evildoers and, finding retribution for the bad they have done, while The Flash is more of a glass is half full type of deal. Here it's about protecting people, stopping people from doing harm rather than punishing villains for the harm they have done, and so on. And it's so great that even though Season 1 hasn't even ended yet, there have been so many different Flash villains already. Some of them I admit that I am not that familiar with, but we've had Captain Cold, played by Wentworth Miller, who is brilliantly cast as he is cold in a figurative way, very calculating, doesn't care about the people he's harming, and is always planning so far ahead. Later up he teams up with Heatwave, played by that other guy from Prison Break, whose name I don't remember. But he's also great because he's the opposite of Captain Cold, since his theme is heat. He's obsessed with fire, he's sort of like a pyromaniac, he's even got burn marks on his body, and he's hot-headed, as in he's very impatient and aggressive. And recently we had Pied Piper, who's, wow, really nasty guy, a villain you love to hate, simply because he is something that starts with an F and ends with AG. I mean, of course, that he's a freaking douchebag. And if you thought that I was going to say that other thing, then shame on you! But let's talk about Barry Allen's supporting cast. We have his lab partner, so to speak, Team Flash, who are very different from Team Arrow, since they are more like a military unit or a strike Force, while these people are scientists and act like it, like they are analyzing things. They try to figure out clever ways to take down the bad guys. And the Flash doesn't always resort to violence. I mean, he has a few times, and it ended very badly. But he gets creative every now and then with taking down villains, like the most recent episode, Crazy for You, where he stopped Peekaboo in a tunnel by taking out all the lights, so she didn't know where she was gonna teleport. About the villains, Cisco Ramon, who in the comics is known as the superhero Vibe, is the one who mostly names all the villains, with a few exceptions, and he's a pretty funny guy, a little too enthusiastic sometimes and slightly overbearing, but really gets some pleasure out of analyzing things. Gets a little carried away, but he really loves coming up with names for all these characters. And then there's Caitlin Snow, who one day will become the supervillain Killer Frost. I think that's gonna be quite tragic, but well, she's kind of a cold person too. I mean, not that she's cruel, but she's very shy and reserved, mostly because her fiance seemingly died when the particle accelerator blew up. So, but she's been opening up a bit lately, like when she got drunk at a karaoke bar and kind of made a fool out of herself, but kind of showed a nicer side of her that sadly needed alcohol to come out. And then there's sort of the wolf in sheep clothing amongst them, Harrison Wells, who seemed to be this very disgraced scientist who got paralyzed and wants to make up for the damage he's done with the particle accelerator disaster. It turns out that there's a lot more to him than that, and they have been adding on that gradually all the time, like the fact that he's faking his paralysis. He'll go as far to protect the Flash's secret as to murdering people, and he's, well, turns out that he's apparently Reverse Flash and the one who murdered Barry's mom, so jeez. Shapers. Imagine if in Dexter Morgan hadn't been the main character, but a supporting character, and it had been revealed after a while that he's the Bay Harbor Butcher. It's almost something like that. I'm really impressed with Tom Cavanaugh, who I mostly recognize from Ed and a number of episodes of Scrubs where he played JD's brother, because I didn't really think he could play so seriously and even sinister to a degree. Well, since poor Barry Allen's mom got killed in front of him and his dad got framed for it, he's grown up with Joe West, a police, is it lieutenant, captain or something like that, detective, who became his foster father, and then the more awkward side of it, that his big crush that he's had since he was a kid then became his foster sister. Yeah, I understand that superhero stories often take things from Greek mythology and such, but you know, that whole family bits, but I digress. Joe West, not Ira as in the comics, well, he's not quite like Quentin Lance in that Quentin has been kind of quite a jerk, very unprofessional, bitter, and such because of the tragedies he's been through. But, well, Joe has a few flaws too. I mean, he might seem like he's controlling and very uncompromising, but that's because he cares a lot about both of his children, both of his actual daughter and his foster son, who is in love with his daughter. God, I mean, they have their tussles from now and then, but then they make up. You know that scene at the end of one episode when Barry points out that, he's the one who gave him clothes or roof over his head, drove him to college. That pretty much sounds like a dad to him. And the fact that Joe knows Barry's secret, that he is the Flash, gives them a very interesting relationship. Because it's like Joe is the Commissioner Gordon to Barry's Batman, but also the Jonathan Kent to Barry's Clark Kent at the same time. And of course there's Iris, Barry's kinda sorta but not quite sister / love interest. Stop that. Who is kind of like the Flash's Lois Lane. I always thought of her as a very sweet and ambitious person who is very friendly towards people, but also a bit, how do you say, not ignorant, but a little inconsiderate in the sense that she says things she perhaps shouldn't be saying, like mentioning that Oliver Queen is on her to-do list, or whatever you call it, when he shows up on The Flash. Yeah, maybe shouldn't have been saying things like that. Plenty of people say that she's a really bad character. I think I'm very ignorant as to why exactly, but then again, I was very ignorant about Lana Lang in Smallville, and it took me a very long time to figure out why she was such a disliked character. There's Eddie Thawne, who apparently shares his last name with one of the Reverse Flashes, which is kind of interesting. I thought that he was gonna be kind of like a jerk to Barry, who pushes him around, sort of like Whitney Fordman in Smallville, but that's not quite the case. He's actually a very nice guy, and he's a very driven policeman, protect and serve, all of that stuff, so he's not like any of the cops in Gotham, if you know what I mean. So mostly about this show so far has been about Barry's, development as a superhero, just being quick up here, not just on his feet, and learning how to tackle all the meta-humans that he comes across. I think it's a little weird with this meta-human prison they keep at the labs. It's like they just put them inside a cubicle like they are freaking dolls, and then just stash them away. I mean, surely they need beds, toilets, food, stuff like that. I think it would have made a lot more sense actually if they provided the police or the Iron Heights prison with some technology to lock up these people up. Speaking of prison, there's of course John Wesley Shipp as Henry Allen, which is quite fitting since, he has experience in playing dads since before, like Dawson's Creek and The Neverending Story Part 2. Also the fact that he also played Barry Allen / The Flash in the 90s TV series, that helps too. And he's had some very moving scenes with this Barry, especially the latest episode where, he pretty much gives away that he knows Barry is the Flash, but doesn't say it out loud, but he is kind of sneaky about it. Like, if I were the Flash's father, I would tell him that it's very dangerous and he should be careful, but I'm also very proud of him. And, Barry gets that. He knows that what he means, and it gets moved to tears, and gosh, the feels. It's really fun to watch both the Flash and Arrow and see the differences in these shows. It's kind of funny how when Arrow shows up in the Flash, it gets a little darker with Barry getting brainwashed by some meta-human, so he becomes very out of character, very aggressive and bitter, kind of like many characters in Arrow. Well, people haven't talked much about the way he was acting after that, but it spawned that task force that was meant for the Flash, but then became for task force for Reverse Flash, or the man in the yellow suit. It kind of sounds like if the Asylum started to write children's books, not just to make mockbuster movies. Yeah. The theme music, of course, is a really nice part, especially that, you know, Arrow has this really, theme music. Now, the theme music in Arrow is kind of very dark and gives you the feeling that there's a storm coming up, that bad things are about to happen. But with the Flash, it's very, you know, da 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 da. It's kind of angelic in a way. Like, it really gives the feeling that Flash is here to make a positive difference, to make Central City a better place. Not like, you know, Starling City is a terrible place and has been for a long time, and Arrow is pretty much just taking out the trash to make it slightly less trashy. Let's see what's gonna come up next. Apparently, you know, Mark Hamill is gonna come back as the Trickster, who he played in a couple of episodes of the old show. I've been hoping that it's gonna turn out that he and what's her name, who plays Tina McGee in the old show, also plays same character here. It was gonna turn out that they are the exact same characters from that universe who have been sort of reality jumping to this world, but I'm getting the feeling that's not the case, and that's a little bit disappointing. I think it would be cool if something like that happened. And apparently time travel is gonna become a very significant part of the show. That's pretty cool. So, but some say we might get some kind of Flashpoint style thing. I've only seen the animated film, and that was kind of nasty. Not to say that I entirely disliked it because of that, but yikes. I wonder how much they're gonna get away with if that happens. I mean, I was really surprised that Cisco could get away with calling Pied Piper that word, you know, Bruce Wayne's young ward Grayson, Detective Tracy, nickname for Richard, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I don't think they've even used that word on Arrow, but they use it in Flash. Huh. And also, I'm really curious as to what kind of plans Captain Cold and Heatwave and Captain Cold's sister have. I mean, seems like we have at least 3 supervillains teaming up to take him down, and Gorilla Grodd lurking around in the sewers like a freaking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Whoa. I actually wasn't sure if they were going to use Gorilla Grodd, since he is kind of a campy character. I mean, a super intelligent gorilla, people. Right? Not. Some people are probably gonna say that's really childish, but you know what? Bring it on! We're getting Trickster and Grodd and so on. This is superb. I mean, it's such a comic book show in the best sense possible. So yeah, I'm digging the hell out of Flash, and I'm so glad it's getting a 2nd season. I'm so psyched about that. Yeah, whoopity freaking do. Yeah, so next time I'm gonna talk about Arrow Season 3. So, take care until then.